General Hospital spoilers for Tuesday, March 11th reveal that Portia arrives at Curtis's doorstep, her expression a mix of fear and desperation. She never thought she'd be in this position, pleading for his help, knowing full well that their relationship has been strained for months. But now, with Brad's threats looming over her, she has no choice. She is running out of options. The weight of her secret is suffocating. The fraudulent test results she altered were never supposed to come to light. She had convinced herself that she was doing the right thing, that her actions were justified, that no one would ever find out. But Brad knows. And worse, he's using it against her. Portia is no stranger to pressure, but this time, the stakes are too high. If Brad exposes her, it won't just be her job on the line, it will be her entire career, her reputation, her ability to practice medicine ever again. And if that happens, what will become of her? What will happen to Trina if her mother is publicly disgraced? The thought of losing everything sends a chill down her spine. Curtis listens, his expression unreadable as Portia lays everything out. He can hear the fear in her voice, see the cracks in her carefully controlled demeanor. He knows her well enough to recognize when she is truly terrified. But part of him can't ignore the reality of the situation. She brought this on herself. Still, no matter how angry or betrayed he has felt in the past, this is different. He can't just stand by and watch her be destroyed, not when she is the mother of his child, not when Brad is known for playing dirty. He may not trust Portia completely, but he knows Brad even less, and that makes this situation even more dangerous. Portia isn't just worried about being fired. She's worried about what Brad might do next. He has always been unpredictable, and now that he has something to hold over her, there's no telling how far he will go. Curtis exhales sharply, rubbing his temples as he processes everything. He doesn't want to get involved in yet another scandal, not after everything he has been through. But this isn't just about Portia, it's about protecting Trina from the fallout. If Brad goes public, their entire family will be caught in the crossfire. As much as he wants to walk away, Curtis knows that he won't. He can't. The real question now is, how do they neutralize Brad before he ruins Portia's life? Curtis leans forward, lowering his voice as he makes a decision. They need leverage. They need something on Brad. Because if they don't stop him first, Portia won't be the only one who gets burned. Sasha stood outside Carly's home, her heart pounding as she prepared for the conversation that could change everything. She had carried this secret alone for too long, unsure of how to move forward, unsure of what this revelation would mean for everyone involved. But now, there was no more hiding. Michael was the father of her child, and Carly needed to know the truth. Stepping inside, she felt the weight of her emotions pressing down on her, her hands fidgeting as she tried to find the right words. Carly, always quick to sense when something was wrong, immediately noticed Sasha's unease. The tension in the room was suffocating as Sasha finally admitted the truth. She was pregnant, and the father was Michael. The revelation hit Carly like a shockwave, momentarily freezing her in place as she processed the unexpected news. This was something she had never anticipated, something that had the potential to shift the entire balance of Michael's life, of Willow's life, of their family. The weight of the situation settled in immediately. Sasha wasn't just here to announce her pregnancy, she was here because she had no idea what to do next. Michael had a family. He was married, building a future with Willow, trying to move forward from everything that had come before. Sasha didn't want to destroy that, but she also couldn't deny the reality of what was happening. Her biggest fear wasn't whether Michael would accept the child, she knew he would, but rather how Willow would react, how this would change the dynamic of everything they had built together. There was no easy way to break this news, no way to prevent the fallout that would inevitably come once the truth was revealed. Carly, steadying herself, quickly began calculating the potential consequences. This wasn't just about Michael and Sasha, this was about the Quartermaines, about Sunny, about Nina. The revelation of this pregnancy would send ripples through Port Charles, and there was no controlling how people would react. If the wrong person found out before Michael did, if Nina got her hands on this information, she could use it against him in ways that no one had foreseen. The custody battle over Wiley, the fragile balance that Michael had been trying to maintain, all of it could be shattered in an instant. Sasha, already feeling overwhelmed, now realized just how much bigger the situation had become. She had been careful, but there were already whispers. Someone else may already know, and if this turned into a public scandal before Michael even had the chance to hear the truth from her, the damage could be irreparable. Carly, her protective instincts kicking in, knew there was no time for hesitation. They needed a plan, and they needed to act fast. The truth was coming, and when it did, nothing in Port Charles would ever be the same. Brooke Lynn finds herself in a dangerous predicament, one that is rapidly spiraling out of her control. What once seemed like a manageable situation has now evolved into a full-blown crisis, leaving her with fewer and fewer options. She has always had a way of talking her way out of trouble, of maneuvering her way through even the most chaotic situations with her signature blend of charm and quick thinking. But this time, things are different. This time, she may not be able to escape the consequences of her actions. The pressure is mounting from all sides, and the walls are closing in fast. Brooke Lynn knows she is in trouble, but the true depth of the danger she is facing hasn't fully settled in, not yet. Every decision she has made in the past few months is coming back to haunt her, and now, the people closest to her are turning against her. Chase and Dante, two men she deeply cares about, are no longer willing to look the other way. They have been patient. They have given her opportunities to come clean, to explain herself, to make things right. But Brooke Lynn has continued to dodge, to deflect, to try and maintain control of the situation. And now, that patience has run out. For Chase, this is personal. The betrayal he feels is unlike anything he has experienced before. He trusted Brooke Lynn, believed in her, and had given her his heart. He thought they were building something real, something solid. But now, that trust has been shattered. Secrets. Lies. Manipulation. Brooke Lynn had promised him she was different this time, that she wouldn't fall back into her old ways, but the evidence speaks for itself. And now, he is left with a choice. Does he protect the woman he loves, or does he finally accept that she has been deceiving him this entire time? For Dante, the situation is even more complicated. He has known Brooke Lynn for years, seen her at her best and worst, but now he is being forced to look at her through the lens of his job, as a detective, not as her friend. He can't ignore the facts, can't pretend that she isn't involved in something dangerous, something criminal. She has crossed a line, and Dante is no longer in a position to shield her from the fallout. If she doesn't start talking, if she doesn't start explaining what she's been hiding, he will have no choice but to take action against her. And that is something neither of them want. Brooke Lynn feels the weight of their expectations, their disappointment, their anger. She wants to believe she still has time, that she can fix this, that she can make them understand. But the truth is, she is running out of time. The threats against her aren't just coming from Chase and Dante, they are coming from something far bigger and far more dangerous. The people she has been entangled with, the ones she thought she could handle, are not the type to forgive mistakes. Brooke Lynn thought she had control, but the truth is becoming painfully clear, she was never the one in control. She was just another pawn in a much larger game. And now, she is the one being played. As the pressure intensifies, she begins to see just how dire her situation really is. If she doesn't act fast, she won't just be dealing with a broken heart or a fractured friendship, she could lose everything. Her freedom. Her family. Her life. The choices she makes now will determine whether she can claw her way out of this mess or whether she will be swallowed whole by it. But there is another problem. Brooke Lynn isn't the only one in danger anymore. If she falls, she won't be falling alone. There are people tied to her actions, people who will suffer if the truth comes out. And that means she has to make a decision. Does she come clean and risk exposing everything? Or does she keep running, keep lying, and hope that somehow, some way, she can make it out of this alive? The storm is coming for her. And if she isn't careful, Brooke Lynn Quartermaine may not survive it. Gio had reached his breaking point. Everything around him was crumbling, his identity, his relationships, his entire sense of self. The weight of secrets, of unanswered questions, of a past that never seemed to belong to him, was pressing down with full force. He had spent so long trying to find where he truly fit in, trying to make sense of the pieces of his life that never quite aligned. But now, the truth was unraveling, and he was losing control. Then came Emma. She arrived at the exact moment when he needed someone the most, when the darkness had nearly swallowed him whole. Emma had always been a force of light in his life, whether he realized it or not, but now, she was standing before him at the worst moment of his existence. Gio had never let himself be vulnerable, never let people see the real him. But there was no hiding anymore. Emma wasn't here by accident. She felt his pain before he ever had to say a word. The burden of his identity, his past, his connection to the Cassadines was suffocating him, pushing him toward the edge. The truth had been manipulated, rewritten, hidden from him, and now that it was coming to light, it threatened to consume him. His entire life had been built on lies, and for the first time, he realized that he didn't even know who he truly was. Emma wasn't here to fix everything, she couldn't. But she was here to remind him that he wasn't alone. She had always been strong, always been able to handle more than people gave her credit for, but what she saw in Gio now terrified her. He was unraveling, and if she didn't reach him in time, she might lose him before he ever truly figured out who he was meant to be. But this wasn't just about Joe's personal struggle, this was bigger. The Cassadine name had been tied to deception, power, and manipulation for generations, and Gio was now at the center of it. He was the missing piece in a game that had been playing out long before he was even born. The truth about his real lineage was no longer something that could be ignored. With every revelation, every new clue about who he really was, Gio was slipping further away from the person he had always thought himself to be. Emma saw the signs, the way he pulled back, the way he questioned everything, the way he seemed ready to run just to escape the chaos. But running wouldn't save him. He had to face it. He had to stand his ground and fight for the truth. Yet the problem wasn't just Gio not knowing the truth, it was who else knew it before he did. There were people in Port Charles, people tied to the Cassadine Empire, who had been keeping secrets about his identity for far too long. And now that the truth was beginning to emerge, danger was right behind it. Emma wasn't just here to comfort him, she was here to stand by him when the storm finally hit. Because one thing was becoming clear, Joe's past wasn't just a mystery. It was a threat. And the people who had kept it hidden weren't going to let the truth come out without a fight. Dante and Lulu's long-awaited meeting carried a weight neither of them could ignore. It wasn't just a casual reunion. It was an inevitable confrontation, one that had been building for far too long. The emotions that once tied them together were still there, lingering beneath the surface, tangled in unresolved history and unspoken truths. Yet, between them stood an unshakable uncertainty, a painful reminder of the life they once shared and the irreversible changes that time had brought. Lulu's return to consciousness had already sent ripples through Port Charles, but now, as she faced Dante, the reality of what she had lost and what she could still reclaim hit her with full force. Dante had moved on, or at least, he had convinced himself that he had. He had built a life with Sam, found stability in the aftermath of Lulu's tragic coma, and forced himself to accept that the woman he had once loved was never coming back. But now? She was right in front of him, and with that came every doubt, every question, every piece of unfinished business that neither of them had been ready to face. For Lulu, this was a test of everything she thought she knew. She had spent so much time in a state of nothingness, trapped in a world where time had stood still for her, while everyone else had moved on without her. The man who had once been her future, her home, was now looking at her with uncertainty rather than familiarity. And the hardest part? She didn't know where she stood anymore. Dante felt the pull of old feelings, the instinct to reach for the woman who had once been everything to him, but something held him back. The moment he looked into Lulu's eyes, the depth of what they had shared came rushing back, but so did the reality of where they were now. He had spent years believing he would never get to have this moment, never get to hear her voice again, yet now that she was here, his life was more complicated than ever. The tension between them was suffocating, filled with words that neither of them could say, filled with a love that had been paused but never truly erased. But where did they go from here? Dante had spent so long forcing himself to heal, to rebuild, to accept a new version of his life. And now, Lulu's presence threatened to undo all of it. Neither of them knew what came next. There was no simple path forward, no easy way to undo the years of pain, of distance, of choices that had been made in the absence of one another. Lulu's return didn't automatically rewrite history, and it certainly didn't erase what had happened while she was gone. The future of Dante and Lulu's love story was now a question without an answer. Would they fight for what they once had, or had too much changed? Had Dante moved on beyond repair, or was Lulu's return the beginning of something neither of them had been prepared for? The only certainty was that nothing between them would ever be the same again.